About the way the poets explore growing old. In On Her Blindness, Adam Thorpe explores. Now, I've written a topic sentence. I'm going to help you with an idea, and then you're going to write it. I'm going to keep practicing good writing skills. I'm going to write some quotations. Don't write the quotations. So just get to that point. Just get to that point, all right? Look at the quotations as I write them. Okay, as I type some quotations, what do you notice about the introduction? Have a discussion with the person beside you. What do you notice about the introduction? I'm just going to carry on talking. Okay, so Ruby, what do you notice about the quotations?
About the quotations.
Oh, excuse me, the introduction. Sorry, yes.
It's quite short and it summarises each poem, but
Good. Could you just quickly all highlight the words of the question? Grab a highlighter, and how many times have I used any of the words of the question? So this is something I would really like to see in all essays regardless. Don't analyse what you think the title is, analyse the title. To do that, you have to use the words of the task, all right? Now, what's interesting is I haven't actually used it in the first sentence, and I was getting to the end of the first sentence, and I thought, I'm in danger of not answering the question. So instead, the second sentence, I really made sure I latched back onto the question, and that's my introduction, okay? So I think that's really important. Age, growing old, old age, growing old, both poets. So you can see that my second sentence in my introduction was much better than my first one, simply because I'm using the words of the task. All right. My topic sentence, both. So I'm doing comparison, and I got my point using the words of the task. Growing old is a old like. What are they saying about growing old? It's a struggle. That's number one, is growing old is a struggle. I would like to read any essay that I read and go, the title was this. What do they say about growing old? They say growing old is, number one, a struggle. Write that on your margin. Growing old is a struggle. That's point number one. Okay, that's what I've argued in this. And that's my first big topic, hence why we call it a topic sentence. The whole paragraph is going to be about growing old as a struggle, and I'm going to get a level 4 because I have detail. Could you underline the second part here, growing increasingly isolated? This is where we get to a level 4 above. As they grow increasingly isolated. I could get to a level 3 with both poets suggest that growing old is a struggle. I'm going to move to a level 4 because of the detail. So write in the margin detail. Now, I've given you some quotations here that should help you. Both poets suggest that growing old is a struggle. His mothers grow increasingly isolated. Now listen to the quotations and think about what I haven't put any terminology with these. You'll have to think about that. They're isolated. Where she blinked, unseeing at the wall. Blinked and stared. But of course I left. Her way to be with him again. Not all the weeks I didn't come, not later, not in all the years. Could not bear being blind, to be honest. Whispered, it's a living hell, to be honest, Adam. She pretended to ignore the void or laughed it off. slow slide had finished in a vision as blank as stone, whilst looking the wrong way. And I'm going to ask you, if you can, not only to compare the way they are struggling, but the complex point is, one is isolated physically, and the other is surrounded by people, but isolated inside herself. That's what I'd want for level 5 in an exam. Write that on your page, somewhere not where you're about to write. So somewhere at the top or in the corner, or level up to a level 4 point would be looking at isolation, that they are struggling with growing old, they're increasingly isolated. Level 5 would be that one is a physical isolation in a nursing home, away from people, alone in a house when the father's died, drinking, a lonely nursing home, literally physically isolated. And the other type of isolation is surrounded by people, but isolated inside yourself. That's a level 5. It's very hard to do, but it's with practice. It's that kind of, there are similar things, but this is a slight difference. Okay, I'm now going to give you 10 minutes to have a go at writing the rest of that paragraph, and then I'm going to mark it before next lesson, possibly even before tomorrow. All right, have it just a go. Okay, play around, embed the quotations with as. You've got 10 minutes. Okay. And then in 10 minutes time, I'm going to go through what skills we've learned. Okay, so you've got 10 minutes now. You can use these quotations. Please bear in mind, I haven't given you any language for terminology analysis, all right? So thinking of repetition or similes or the use of the lines, and you should be flipping back and forth between pages 12. Good. So I think this is really useful. We're going to have a little look, okay? Jenkins shows how his mother became physically isolated after he abandoned her in her old age. So it could just say isolated, but it's gone straight in with a bit of detail. After he abandoned her in old age, and his regrets, we've got that emotion about this reflected in the repetition. Now I've got terminology. AO1, term. The word not, all the weeks I didn't come. Not later, not in all the years. So tick, quotation, tick, quotation, tick, quotation. 3 quotations in a row, none of them one words. So we've got terminology, AO1, quotation, AO1. This highlights his mother's loneliness. So we've now gone into the craft of the writer. What's the writer doing? It's highlighting. Are you all happy with that? That's craft of the writer. This highlights his mother's loneliness, also correct apostrophe, which I like. His mother's loneliness and his separation from her, similarly. Now, I'm hoping it's going to go on to make the same point. If it says similarly, it should make the same point, but good connective, AO4. So far, I've got a sense of connection. Similarly, in On Her Blindness, correct apostrophes to surround the title. I like that, well done. I wouldn't normally tick it. I would assume that an A-level student does that. Similarly, in On Her Blindness, thought describes terminology, his mother's life as a long, slow slide. And the use of enjambment, so fluency between the lines, and sibilance. It's actually assonance, but good try. Well, no, not at all. Assonance is repetition of vowel sounds. All right, repetition of vowel sounds. You, etc. It's kind of, it makes things slower. So the repetition of vowel sounds. Good. Long, slow slide. Actually, yes, you could. Good point. I suppose it's because there's only 2, but you're right, Grace. You could say it's got sibilance. The long, slow slide. Yes. Yeah, I'd be fine with either of those. Slows the pace down, mirroring the speed of life, of her life, and the loss of vision. Now, what we've got is we've got terminology, and then something's done with it. What does it do? It slows the pace down, mirroring the speed of her life and the loss of vision, suggesting how dull, and then it goes further. Now, this is where we get to a level 4. Can you see how there's detail? Can you see how there's detail for level 4? It's hard, but that's what I like to see for level 4. This point right here, we've got to level 4. Okay. For a moment, let's look at your book, at your feedback sheet. At level 4, right at the top, it says your points are detailed. Point is detailed? Yes. Let's go down to the next one. Topic sentence is a controlled essay? Yes. Always accurate, chosen language carefully to express your ideas? Yep. Use terminology showing clear understanding of literary features, and you've selected appropriate examples to discuss? Yes. Let's go down. Well chosen, thoughtful points about how the writer creates meaning? Yes. Very good textual understanding, subtle ways. And then this is the key for why it's got to be level 4 above, because it's got subtle ways it crafts the text. Now, this is what we do. We build it together little by little, and we're going to build confidence, and also going to help look at one another's and see what we do well and what we can learn from one another. Suggesting how dull and mundane her life has become. Similarly, Jenkins presents his mother's suffering as she blinked unseeing at the wall, again repeating what terminology, blinked instead, to show how she had nothing else to do and was completely isolated. And this parallels how Thorpe's mother's vision was as blank as stone. She has nothing else to do, she's completely isolated. Her vision was as blank as stone, showing how both mothers are unseeing both literally and metaphorically. While Thorpe's mother tries to involve herself in the family, she is looking the wrong way. Good. No, absolutely not. But what do we like about it? What do we like about it? Lots of quotations. The terminology is really apt, isn't it? Good. The comparison is integrated, and it's got a lot of writer's craft. So after the quotation, it's got why they're doing this. This parallels how Thorpe's mother and what they're using it to do, suggesting how dull and mundane her life has become. Jenkins shows how his mother, this highlights his. It's got a lot of craft, a lot of craft. We could swap it for the author's name, and it would be really obviously AO2.